Alright, so for this tutorial, I am going to create a 2D shooter game. Basically, it's like a saloon shootout. So it's shooter, 2D. I'm having to go to the desktop, and I'm going to go ahead and create the project. And then hopefully this will pop up. And it went over here for some reason. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I'm just going to make this the complete size here. Okay, first things first, what I got to do is make my folder. So create folder, and we're going to do animations. All right, and we're going to create a folder, and it will be prefabs, and we will create a folder, and that will be scenes, and create a folder, and that will be scripts, and we will create another folder, and that will be sprites. Okay, so got animations, prefabs, and sprites. Fantabulous. Now what we're going to do is load in our sprites. So I am going to go to, where are you, sprites, and I just have the various elements here. So I just have it in the other screen. I'm just going to, oops, hang on a second, before I do that, open this up. Okay, I'm just going to drag in from my other screen there, background, and then I have the sprites, this one clown sprite, and here's another clown sprite sheet, and then I have this sprite. Alright, so these are my sprites that I have, so that's good. I got those all set in there, and next what I'm going to do is just go ahead and I am going to save this scene, so save scene as, and I'm going to save it to scenes, and I'm going to call it main, and we will save. Bam, so now that's saved into scenes. Now the next thing I'm going to do is decide how big I want this to be. So I'm thinking for this, because it's actually going to be kind of vertical, because it's a saloon shootout thing, I'm going to go to File, we're going to go Build Settings, and I'm going to keep it on PC Mac, but again, you can switch it here if you wanted. I'm going to hit Player Settings, which will make it pop up here. And then we have default as full screen. I'm going to turn that off. And I think I'm going to do 1024 by 1024, we'll say. So I'll just make it square. Boom. So that's good. And I'm also, while I'm in this screen, actually, I'm going to go ahead and add current. So that looks good. I'm not going to build it yet. I'm just going to set that up. So 1024 by 1024. Now I want my scene view and my game view to basically represent that. So I'm going to go to here. And you can see I don't have 1024 by 1024. So I'm going to do is hit this little plus, and this is going to add a new predefined thing here. So I'm going to make it 1024 by 1024, and I'll hit OK, and boom. So there, that looks like that, and you'll see my scene view also represents that. So that is good. Fantabulous. Now what I'm going to do is work on my sprites here. So if you look, I have these various ones here. I'll go to the backgrounds first. This one is fine. I don't need to do anything with it. These all look, what's this one? Okay, these all look fine. I don't think I have any major issues with this. I'm going to go ahead and drop this in here. And I'm going to go to my scene view here so I can see everything. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm holding shift to kind of scale this down. And we'll just go ahead, and I'm not holding shift now. There we go. I just need enough that it fits the screen. Let's see. That's a good size, so we'll leave that at the current size. So what I can do is go to these import settings, but pixels per unit I have 110, and that seems to be a pretty good amount for me. And everything else seems fine. I'm not really too concerned about it. I'm going to take these window, this background here, and it's also 110. I'm going to drop this in there, and then I have clouds, and I'll drop this in there. So those are all my background elements. I didn't really have to adjust any of these, so they looked fine as they were. So, all right. Now what I need to do is I am on each one of these going to build a. I'm going to make a new sorting layer. So these are all basically. Or that they have different elements to it. So I want these background things like the sky and the clouds and stuff to be in the background. So I'm going to click on this. Right now there's no sorting layer, so I'm going to add a sorting layer. And we're going to hit plus, and come on, plus, and I'm going to do background. Alright, and I usually just do this. You can do more than this. I'm just doing background, midground, and foreground. That's usually enough to get what I need. And and foreground. Beauteous. Okay, and I'm going to go back to the background base, and I make that background. Okay, so now that's going to go behind everything. Then we have background castle, windows, and clouds. So clouds will also be part of the background. And I'm going to put these at 1. So they're going to be part of this background level, but they're going to be 1 up. 0 is this one, and then 1 goes above that. Okay, so, and then if I did 2, it would go in front of the clouds. Then the last thing I'm going to do is these windows. I am also going to make these part of background. And I'm going to put these as 2. So basically, it's going to be background, this, and then that. And then lastly, I'm going to select these, the castle itself. And I'm actually going to make this one the foreground, because this has actually got to go in the front of everything else. And that looks adequate. So I'm relatively happy with that. And I don't need to change anything because there's nothing else for it that's competing with. So that all looks pretty good. I'm just going to create an empty, and we're just going to call it, just to group everything together, I'm just going to call it background. Alright, I'm going to take all of these elements, and I'm just going to drop them in here, and it just makes it a little bit simpler. Collapse. Okay. And that's looking good. I'm going to go ahead and save this. Yay! Okay, so the background's good. Now what I need to do is basically adjust these. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Shift and select all of them. And I'm going to go ahead and change it from single to multiple, because there's multiple images in each one of these. Pixels per unit, I have 100. Now I don't know if that's actually what I need. I'm going to go ahead and apply. And I'm just going to drop this in there and see. Okay, drop it up. Texture being dropped has no sprites. What is going on here? Multiple hacking tag. That's kind of weird. Okay. Okay, well, let's go ahead and we'll do sprite editor for this one. And I'm going to go to slice, and we're going to just go automatic since there's just 2 of them. And there you go. And we'll apply. It just didn't have it wasn't sliced apparently. So then we'll select this one. We're going to go to sprite editor. And I am going to go to automatic, and we'll just slice it again. Yeah, that works for me. And apply, and I'm going to select this last one, sprite editor, slice, and we'll do automatic slice. Okay. And that should be good. All right, and apply. All right. So now I'm just going to drop this in here to see what the size is. And we're going to go ahead and put this as midground so I can see it. She's way too big, right? So I'm going to go to here, and I'm going to change my size. Now, just as a reminder, each one of these is a unit. Each one of these little squares, okay? So currently she is 1920. So if I actually made this pixels per unit 1920, she will be, and hit apply, she will be the size of one. Well, actually there's 2 units in here, so this would be this entire, that'd be both these together. So you can see this would fit into this square, and you can kind of see how that matches up, right? So what I'm going to do is let's try 500 and hit apply. And it's still kind of big. Let's try 750 and hit apply. Okay, we'll say 750 is fine. Okay, so I'm going to do 750. And I'm just going to assign the rest of these also to 750, so they're all the same, which they might need to be different. Oops, go ahead and apply. All right, let me just see what this one looks like. And midground and W, bring this over. So you can see this is actually too small because this is actually a longer image. So let's try doing 500 and apply. Yeah, that's closer. Let's try 400 and apply. Okay, so 400 is good for that. This one's probably 400 as well, would be my guess. And we will apply, and I'm just going to drop it in here so I can see it, and we will also put this into foreground right now. Yeah, that looks fine. Okay, so I'm going to grab all 3 of these and just delete them. Delete. Okay, good. And I don't know what these are doing in here. Just get rid of those. Okay, good. So we have all those built, and that is working pretty well. So now what I'm going to do is make each one of these a prefab. so that we can call them when we want and instantiate them inside of this castle. Okay, so it should be relatively simple in the long run. So, oops, then I double clicked on it. Exit out of that. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab Hillary. Boom, and I am just gonna move it off the center here so I can see it. And this one should be mid-ground. And the reason why I need it mid-ground is that this way it goes behind the castle, but in front of everything else. So it's gonna be mid-ground. Order and layer is fine, we'll just do 0 because it's not competing with anything. I'm just gonna add some components. So I'm gonna do a physics 2D and a rigid body is kinematic. I'm gonna go to my constraints, and we are gonna freeze the rotation. Okay, so that way it doesn't move on Z, it won't rotate. So that's good. And then we will also add another physics 2D, and we will add a box collider. And the size of it's fine. If I need to change that, just hit add collider, and I can change it here, but it looks fine to me. That all looks pretty good. I'm just going to change the name of it to just straight Hillary. And I'm going to 0 all this back out. Tab 0, 0. And that looks good. And I'm just going to take that and go to my prefabs, and I'm going to drop it into here. So now that is a prefab. I'm going to delete it. And I'm basically going to do the same process again for each one of these. So now, oops, sorry. Where are you? Sprites. I'm going to grab Trump and drop him up in here. And I'm just going to go ahead and rename this Trump. Trumpa. Great at spelling. Add component, physics 2D, rigid body 2D, and make sure it's kinematic, and lock that. Add another component, physics 2D, box collider, fine. And then I'm going to switch this to mid-ground, and that looks good. So I'm happy with that, and I'm just going to go ahead and take this, and I'm going to drop it into the prefabs. Good. And I can actually delete these because we'll just bring those in when we need them later. All right. And let's go to other sprites here. And so I have animations. For this, actually, I'm just going to use the single ones here, though. So I'm just going to grab this one just to make things a little bit easier for me. And we'll just say this is clown. Clown is this. We'll say 01. Okay. And this is also going to be mid-ground. We're going to add a component, physics 2D, rigid body, is kinematic, and that. And we're going to add another component, physics 2D, box collider, just in case we need these. And that looks okay. So I'm going to grab that, drop that into the prefab. Yep, into prefabs. Good. And then we're going to need, let's see, sprites. I'm going to minimize that. We're going to open up this one, and I'm just going to find one of these that I like. So we'll say this one, and I'm going to rename this Clown02, Clown02. And it's going to be mid-ground again. Add component, physics 2D, rigid body, is kinematic, and Z. We need to do is kinematic because otherwise it'll drop. And freeze rotation keeps it from rotating, if you remember. And we're going to also add a box collider to it, and that is good. I'm going to go back to assets, and I'm going to take Clown2 and I'm going to drop it into prefabs. Bam. And I can go ahead and get rid of both of these. All right, and I'm just going to save this. And I have my prefabs here, so now whenever I need one, I can just drop and drag it up here, which is awesome. So the next thing I need to do is make a script that's basically going to instantiate these into these different locations, okay? Which is relatively simple. So first I'm going to do is create an empty, and I'm just going to make this the game controller. Game controller, and I'm just going to assign the, the script onto this. So game controller, I'm going to go to scripts, right click, create, JavaScript. And we're going to call this one the command A, just game controller script. Looks good. I'm going to drop it. I'm going to hang on a second. Take it. I'm going to drop it onto game controller. So now that's one of the attributes. And then I'm going to double click on it to open it up in my favorite text editor for this stuff. And it's going to pop up here. And then we are going to start coding it. And I'll do that in the next video.